Segura with Salesforce.com. I'm here today to demonstrate a new AppExchange package for Salesforce.com called Adoption Trends. Adoption Trends allows you to monitor patterns of usage habits over time. While the Adoption dashboard does a great job of showing you data that's currently in the system, Adoption Trends enhances this by showing you patterns over time. For example, we could see here in this chart weekly entries for activities, cases, leads, and opportunities. We can evaluate this data by department, by division, by profile, or manager, or for that matter, any data element that's related to the user object. Adoption Trends uses a custom Salesforce object to track this data. Let's take a look at this custom object. I'll just go into Create, Objects, and here we see my custom object, Adoption Trend. I save 4 key pieces of information in this object. The editing user, this is the person making the change or adding the new record, the object in question, the number of edits or adds, and the date of the snapshot. The next thing we'll take a look at is the report types that are part of this package. Now really there's 2 different types of report types in this package. One is used to collect statistics, and the other is used to report back those metrics over time. For example, let's take a look at leads by user. This custom report type looks at the user object as well as the leads associated with those objects. The key thing is that I'm looking at the last modified user. This is used to create a source report. So let's go look at the source reports. This can be found in the Adoption Trends folder, and I've included the word snapshot to indicate that a given report is a source report. Here's leads by user. Notice that it's using that report type. This is a very simple report. All that it's doing is aggregating together all of the changes for the leads objects by the specific modifying user. The other thing that I'm doing is looking only at a date range of today. So what this means is when we run this report, it'll only show you the lead records that were edited or added on that given date. So let's go add a new lead to demonstrate. When I go back to the report, you can see now that I have 3 leads. Let's go back into setup. The next thing that we included in this package is the Analytic Snapshot itself. Under Data Management, Analytic Snapshots, you can see that there's 4 Analytic Snapshots included in this package: activities, cases, leads, and opportunities. Let's take a look at leads. In this case, the source report is the report that we just looked at, AT leads by user snapshot, and the target object is my new custom object, Adoption Trends. In the field mapping, we notice 2 things. One, we're looking at the grouping level by user ID, and then finally the mapping down at the bottom. So here we have the user from the grouping level being pushed into the editing user fields in my custom object. And then I'm doing a little trick. I'm pushing the analytical snapshot name, which in this case is AT leads, into the object called object. Next I have my record count, which maps into the field record count, and the execution time of this snapshot, which goes into the snapshot date. Now one thing that you'll have to do as administrator is schedule these snapshots to run. Unfortunately, we can't include schedules in a package, therefore you'll have to add them yourself. But this is pretty simple. I'll just click on Edit under the Schedule, In this case, I'm going to want to use daily and every weekday. Of course, if you're a company that operates on the weekend, you'll want to set this to every day. The next thing that you'll have to do is click on Find Available Options for the preferred start time. Since I'm using a developer org, I only have one option. If you're using Enterprise Edition or Unlimited Edition, you'll have multiple options per day. However, you'll only be able to run one snapshot per hour unless you purchase additional snapshots. That's fine. You'll just schedule each one of your snapshots to run in the evening. Go ahead and click Save, and your snapshot is scheduled to run. So what will happen is at 10 p.m. every weekday, this report will run and save the values in the Adoption Trends object. So the result is that we get this nice dashboard. And since all of the data that I'm collecting is related to the user object, I can leverage any field associated with users to sort or slice and dice that data. So for example, here's activities by department and division, as well as activities by profile and manager. You can extend this to include custom fields that you might have built on your user object. So that's about it. The one last thing that I want to leave you with is, of course, how do we put together an additional snapshot to run on a custom object or one of the objects that I haven't included. So let's go through and walk through the motions of what it will take to add in monitoring of the contact object. The first thing that I'll want to do is go back into Setup and create a custom report type. So I'm going to follow that same pattern that I did in the package, and I'm going to create a new custom report type, and I'm going to name it AT Contacts. Put in a description, and I'll save it in the Administrative Reports folder. Now, one thing that I'll want to do is make certain that the primary object that I use is users, not contacts. You'll see why in just a second. So my primary object is users, and I want to click the related objects and add in contact. And I want to be careful here because I want to use the last modified by contact, not the owner and not the create by. This will allow me to monitor any changes that are made to an existing contact as well as any new contacts that are added. So from there, you can edit the layout and include anything that you want to in the layout for both users and contacts. We'll just leave everything as is and save it. The next step will be to go create a source report. So I'll go back to Reports, click New Report, and I'll look under Administrative Reports and select the report type that I just created, AT Contacts. Go ahead and click Create. And the key things that I want to do here are to include the user ID field from the user table, which we know from just creating that object is actually the user who last made this change. And we'll want to do a group by this field. The group by allows us to count all of the records that are created for this user. Next, I want to change my date range to today to only show records that were added or created today. And I want to make sure that I'm looking at the last modified date for that range. So right now, my report won't show anything when I run it. However, I'll save this report and I'll put it in that same Adoption Trends folder, and I'll call this report AT Contacts Snapshot. And save it. And now to show that this is working, I'll go to Contacts and just open up a contact and make a quick edit. So now I've made a change to that contact record. When I go back and run the report, AT Contacts Snapshot, it'll show me that one record was included here. So I know it's working. Okay, so I've got my source report working. The last step is to go in and create an analytic snapshot. So I'll go under Data Management, Analytic Snapshots, click New Analytic Snapshot. I'll call it AT Contacts. And I know that AT:contacts is going to be the name of this snapshot and therefore used by my collection later on when this runs. And I'll specify the running user as a user that has access to all my data in the system. Next, I select the source report, which of course was AT:'contacts snapshot, and my target object, which is adoption trend. Finally, I'll click Save and edit the field mappings. I'll want to set my grouping level to level 1. And I created that user ID grouping in the source report. And then I'll want to do the mapping of my data. So I'll have my level 1 grouping be pushed into the editing user field. I'll have the snapshot name be pushed into the field named object. The record count be the record count from the summary report. And finally, the execution time of this snapshot will be pushed into the snapshot date. I'll save it. And then finally, again, we'll have to add a snapshot to run. Run it daily. Pick your start and end date. And I would pick a date that's arbitrarily in the future, a few years out. And then you'll click on Preferred Start Time and select one of the times. You'll notice that since I'm using a Developer Edition org here, I don't have any additional available snapshots to be run. If you're using Enterprise Edition or Unlimited Edition, you should have plenty available. So once that's scheduled, and it'll begin collecting data on a nightly basis, and then you'll be able to look at your adoption dashboards to look at who's using the system over time. So I hope you enjoyed this quick video, and I hope you can take advantage of the Adoption Trendz AppExchange plugin. If you've got any questions or comments, please send them to me at Twitter. My handle is TexasRob. See you next time.